What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Make an Impact podcast with real stories, real people, and real impact. My name is Stephen Turnbull. I'm an entrepreneur, husband, and father on a mission to empower individuals to share their stories so they can make an impact on you. Kari Puleo, the executive director of the Greater Utica Chamber, is in the house today. A great friend, a great story of how she got to the role she is today and the true impact that she's making on businesses and the general community. The chamber, especially in Utica, is more than just a chamber. They're doing a bunch of impact and conversations that are needed for our business community that foster great relationships. You're really going to enjoy this episode. Let's get into Kari Puleo. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Make an Impact podcast. Very special guest in the house, my friend Kari Puleo, the executive director of the Greater Utica Chamber of Commerce. How are you today?
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me, Stephen.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
We had a great conversation before. We should have just hit the record button. Maybe not.
We did. We had a little political breakdown conversation,
a lot
of economic development conversation, but there's a lot happening, so there's always a lot to talk about.
Tell us who Kari is if I'm meeting you for the first time.
Sure. I was born and raised in St. Lawrence County, so a lot of people think I am from Utica. Both of my parents are from Utica, and I spent a ton of time here growing up. One of the things that we got to do was come here and stay with our grandparents for a week by ourselves without our siblings, and we got to do anything we wanted during that week within reason. So going to Sylvan Beach, I'd go to Dunham Library and get my books for the week and check them out. We'd get to pick out who we wanted to go see in terms of live music and bands and parks and concerts. So I've always had a home here in Utica. I've always had a bedroom here my whole life. But I was raised in St. Lawrence County on the water, graduated high school and attended college in Rochester at Nazareth, which now is Nazareth University. And then post-college, I moved to Washington, D.C., and I lived there for several years. I worked for the Smithsonian Institution in their educational travel department, and I really got to explore the world through the lens of education and learning about, who the people we are and what makes us us through all sorts of different lenses of education, whether it was going with a naturalist on a birding tour or an art historian through Italy or even a Civil War tour in Gettysburg. So really all of the different hobbies and interests of what make people true people through the lens of education. And it was a really good start to my career, but eventually I had my son and decided I wanted him raised, a little bit more traditionally like I was. And moved him to Utica to go to school and, really to be around family and to be in a tight, close-knit community of people who cared about each other. And what I liked about moving to Utica was when I did things here, I could see the impact that I was making. So, for example, when we started Jingle Jam and we were donating money back to the next young professionals, whether it was through simply toys for their age group, which is how that started, or more impactful programming like Wilson's Cops and Kids and STEM programming at the library and all of those resources, and you can actually see and feel the impact that you make. It's just a much bigger ripple effect in a smaller community.
So I'm just thinking now, so when you got first involved with Catalyst, which for the listeners is the young professional group of the Greater Chamber, we had CJ a few episodes ago. Was that when you moved back? Was it that time?
So there was a couple of years in between me living here and Catalyst starting, and I will say it was really hard for me to find my place, right? So I moved back here and I was working for the Department of Health as a contractor originally. And so my colleagues were in Albany and Syracuse. And then, of course, I partnered with other local organizations. But that wasn't like working in an office and meeting people my age and interacting with like-minded people who had the same goals and hobbies and wants in life. And so I kind of struggled for a little while. And then my son went to kindergarten and I met other parents, which was great, but it still wasn't like my friend group, like my people.
Yeah.
And then when Catalyst started up, a former colleague of mine, was working at that time at Citron, and Pam Musty I was working at Citron for a little while, and Pam and I became friends. We actually shared an office, and she was working at the chamber and kind of OG Catalyst, kicking off that.
Gotcha.
And so I heard about it from her like year one. So I wasn't like the initial starter group of the organization, but I was like right on as soon as like that was getting up and running and off the ground.
So I want to set the stage when it comes to the chamber, and I think your story is perfect for that. And full disclosure, I'm a huge cheerleader of the chamber for those watching, as a proud board member and proud member for 10 plus years in different roles and things. But it's so cool that, and we've talked about this off air, but that you started off in Catalyst and now are the executive director of the organization and have just done a phenomenal job with your tenure of what you've been able to do with the organization.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. But I really think that, Catalyst has been a launch for so many people in careers in the Utica area, not just establishing what professional conduct in a more relaxed setting looks like, because we all know that in business, you do business on the golf course, you do business dinners, right? Like not all work happens in an office. So learning at a young age, like how do you conduct yourself in those more casual situations, because those relationships continue to matter, and being able to do that in a more casual setting while you're young and learning and developing, all of those skills, they really are a huge skill set that people have to learn. It doesn't come naturally for everybody to network and to, divide between these are my professional contacts and these are ones that are more personal and professional. And so how do you navigate that as you're growing in your career, and you need relationships with different people for different reasons, and why you never burn bridges, and why you continue to grow your network, because you never know where life is going to take you personally or professionally.
Yeah. I've told the story before, so I'll just tell it short. But when I came home from college, which I didn't know we were college neighbors at different times, St. John Fisher College, now university also. But when I came home and worked for the family business, like I went to a chamber event, I think a month later, and John Reese, who was working for Aflac, was the first one to say hello to me. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a 95-degree July day at Piggy Pat's, and he introduced me to Sarah, who was chair of Catalyst at the time, and then I got involved with that, and now on the board. And so, like, to your point, you never know where those connections are gonna lead you. Talk to me about why the opportunity to become the executive director was something that you wanted to go after.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had worked at Notre Dame schools as the director of advancement for several years. My son was graduating high school. I knew that I kind of had fulfilled everything that I need personally out of that role. And so I was really looking to see what was next, and kind of actually casually at that time, because I was kind of thinking, he's going to be graduating in May. And here it was like January, the beginning of the year, and kind of just keeping my options open and knowing that finding the right place and fit sometimes takes some time. And when Meg announced that she was leaving the chamber, it had meant so much to me to really be involved in Catalyst, and not only the relationships that I had developed as a young professional through Catalyst and the chamber, but also in my role at work and developing relationships with business owners. It really was kind of a natural, seamless fit. When I look back through my history and the story of connections and networking and building bridges, I can tell you this is just like a quick story that happened today. One of my parents' dear friends who has always lived in this area, even though my parents are no longer here, works for a church and is looking to, she runs the food pantry, and she's working with somebody from downstate who now wants to start a furniture pantry, like a food pantry for people who, and so she was able to come in and knows me, and I can move forward those kind of projects which are impactful to our community based on the relationships I've developed, right?
Yeah.
So now she's got somebody who wants to move here from New York City and start this furniture pantry for people in need, and knowing the diversity of our community. And, especially I think right now we're all thinking about the earth and sustainability and recycling things too, right? So it's also reuse of goods so they don't go into landfills. And I can help somebody to navigate where that fits in our nonprofit world and community with our members to make things happen. So like those connections and points of impact, if you just nourish them, they naturally happen over and over again. And then over time, you can look and see things that you have done and steps that you have made. And maybe you didn't do all of the project, but those small connections matter to people over time.
It's I've talked about this before, but it's a cool thing to look back at the connections and how they got there, right? And like where those connections came up. You said something that was interesting, that good fits and good opportunities could take time when you were starting to look, and I wanted to look at a different opportunity. What would somebody that's listening to this that is either at that job or looking to start that business or whatever, that doesn't feel completely fulfilled, what would your advice be?
Be curious, use your resources, talk to people about opportunities. I mean, I have had wonderful opportunities just by either making an ask or being on the other side. So another really fun story. Last week I was at Utica Coffee, and I was just sitting there having a business meeting, having coffee outside with somebody. And at the end of that, there were some gentlemen who asked to take a photograph, and they were from Scotland, and they were driving to the FIFA match in Boston and had heard about Utica as they were looking at where they were going to go on their road trip, and knew that we had one of the oldest family-owned breweries in the country, and they really wanted to check it out. It was 10:30 in the morning, and they were really disappointed that they had to get back on the road. And I was looking at these. They were young. They were in their early 20s, the same age as my son. And so I was looking at them thinking, like, if I was really excited and I went to some place and I found out that I couldn't do it and I was in America for the first time, I'd kind of be a little bummed and walk away from that experience, a little jaded. But if somebody said, hold on a second, let me see what I could do. And I was able to take these gentlemen through a tour with the assistance of the brewery, and not just take them through the brewery, but tell them the story of Utica, because these people are going to be an ambassador for our city. They're going to leave here and talk about how Utica has affordable housing. We have tons of great paying jobs and more on the way. We have community. We have affordable housing. We have diversity in our restaurants and our people and our food. So it wasn't just a tour of the brewery.
Right.
I was telling the story of Utica and the Greater Utica area, and I asked them, could you see yourself, your friends, your family moving here? And they were so excited about our community and the hospitality that we had. And I didn't do it just for the fun of it. I didn't do it because I got to go to the brewery in the middle of the day. I didn't do it just to help these kids because that's the kind of person I am. I didn't do it just because I love Utica and I love showing it off. I did it for all of those reasons combined, because those little ripple effects make an impact.
Yeah. I think it's such a huge point that you made about making the ask. Think about the amount of opportunities that are missed because people are either afraid or don't think they should. And I just think, like, even in my professional story up until now, like especially with starting the agency, so much of the success that's been behind it has been sticking my neck out and calling somebody that I saw in a Facebook group that has an agency in California and being like, hey, how you doing this? How you doing that? Right? Like, just what's the worst case that's going to happen?
They're going to say no, or they're going to point you to maybe a resource. They may say, that's proprietary information for now, but let's keep in touch. And at some point, we may be able to connect. Like, you never know where that phone call, where that ask can take you, or even just asking somebody else to make the introduction for you. So many people are just beyond flattered to be a mentor, to have that opportunity. And I think, we started this women's leadership conference 2 years ago, which blew up in a way that I can't even still comprehend.
Like ridiculously
and the need
Incredible.
and the want for it, right? So people are looking for these opportunities for connection. And I think the more and more digital the world becomes, the more we almost want to revert back to human connection and kindness in a way that we forget. I just had my 30th high school reunion this past weekend, and we had a video, one of those big giant video cameras back in the day. And so we had videos from prom and senior dinner dance and in the school gym just running around and being goofy. And it was me and my group of friends, our significant others, and all of our children. And one of my girlfriends just texted me and said, Belen was so impressed that at the prom, everybody was talking and dancing and nobody had cell phones and you were just interacting and having fun. Mm-hmm. And for that to be like something to comment on is almost sad, right? Because that's just what you did. You just connected. You had fun. Like I would, on the weekend, go out with my friends and we were blessed to live on a river, so we didn't even need cars. We would just drive boats and go out to islands and go camping. And I would, find a payphone on the river and call my parents and say, we're camping, we'll be home tomorrow. And that was it, right? Yeah. There was this trust of growing up and helping to build your children's confidence and creativity in the world and curiosity, right? Like, when do we have time just to think and plan for the future and create things, right? That's how innovation is built.
I'm going to go off. I'm going to go off on him. Mike, allow me 30 seconds. You know what the kids these days need to experience? Like middle school age, calling the girl that you have a crush on the parents' home phone and having the dad answer the phone. Come on now. Let's experience that. Put the Snapchat away and call Mr. Smith at 13 years old and asked to talk to his daughter. Exactly.
So actually, there is a trend that the kids line is coming back and parents are trying to, at a young age, you see kids in 4th, 5th, 6th grade with cell phones and you get it. There's safety concerns. It's not the same world that we lived in the 90s. And you want to be able to connect with your children if they're getting off the bus a little bit earlier before you get home from work. And so there's this reinvigoration of home lines and the kids line, not only so you can call and check on your kids, so that they can call each other, right? Yeah. And like make those plans and say, let's all meet at the ball field at 5:00 after dinner.
Right. Yeah, be home before dark. Those are the days.
Yeah.
One thing that you brought to my mind to talk about here is this like AI thing, and you guys do a lot with the chamber of at least like having speakers in for businesses. And I have been very vocal and just am a firm believer that AI is not going to take all the jobs and do this as everybody's having the scare tactic. It's certainly going to take the jobs of the people that are not utilizing it. And Mike in this room, that's what he does for a living, is help people utilize it to better serve their people. And I'm going to go on a rant for a minute, but in my world with insurance, you can get it online, and everyone's like, well, AI is going to take it. Well, is an AI about who you want to talk to when your house is on fire? Probably not, right? And a friend of mine in Arizona has an agency, and he just put out this post, and it had no words. It just said, better humans, better insurance. And it just stopped me, right? And to your point, I think there is going to be a bell curve of, I want to talk to somebody. I could do it on ChatGPT and get the information, but I don't know, is that right? Is it wrong? Is this bot telling me the truth? All of that. And you think about it, and I've been like struggling in my mind to think about this, of the comparison of like the internet. And the internet was going to change all of this and change all that, right? And then another example that just left my mind, but we adapted to it as a society.
Yep.
And like now, the example I was going to think of is the phone call trees, right? When it first came out, that press 1 for service, press 2 for sales, press 3 to talk to Frank. Well, no, I just want to talk to Frank. And everyone's just sitting there pounding on 0 because they want to talk to a human because they're over it. At first, it was kind of cool, right? I can have a direct line, whatever. And now it's come back to the human thing. From the members that you guys serve, what are you seeing in that world of the adaptability with all of these things that are coming out, and what do you guys do to help kind of ease that conversation?
Yeah.
I just threw a lot at you.
That's
but
okay. AI is really changing the game. And at every point through, even back to the Industrial Revolution, and think about like the cotton gin and picking cotton, and people like the machinist who like rammed against the Industrial Revolution and would actually destroy machinery because they were worried about jobs. Did that take away jobs, or did it improve the lives of the people doing the jobs because they were doing skills that were better equipped for humans to do, and machines did the jobs that were better equipped for machines to do, right? It's the same thing. You look at this bell curve. I just listened to a phenomenal economist. MBT Bank recently had their economists do kind of a debrief of where we are today and the tale of two cities. Is it the best of times or is it the worst of times? It's a little bit of both, right? Like your stock portfolio is really doing well, but the price of gas, well, it's come down a little bit, right? So we look at these bell curves through time, and every time there's massive change, right? There's like this fear, and then we adapt, and everything gets better, right? It always gets better, even though there's that fear coming. So I think that we all know that the skills for workers are going to change. I've heard the statistic, and there's a lot of them out there, but about 30% of your job skills are going to change in the next 5 years. Sure. So whether that's learning how to use AI better, how to implement it, but it's really taking a lot of the tasks that humans don't want to do away.
Bingo.
So I'll give you a really good example of using AI where it didn't take any of my brain power or my thought or my autonomy over the work that I was doing, but it made my time more efficient. So I'm going to talk about leadership again. Year 1, insane, sold out in 5 days. Year 2, 200 more people, sold out in 5 days. And we really felt this pressure crunch of how do we execute this with all the other tasks that we do really well and also really efficient because we have a lot on our plate. So last year I worked on this like 30-page document run of show of everything that we were doing, all the information we needed, all the fine details. It still was a lot. And we came up to probably those 2 to 3 weeks before the event, like crying every night, like, how are we going to do all this work and how are we going to manage it? So now this year we're looking at, we have a date set, we know certain benchmarks and milestones. I took last year's document, I told ChatGPT everything. I said, this is our Bible. This year's event, 2027's event is going to be on this date. And we were really, really crunched this year. Make a spreadsheet of deliverables for me so I can plan my year. And it took everything in that. And I could have done this. I could have taken a calendar and like figured out when I need to do what by. But it did all of it in like 20 minutes and gave me an Excel table and like even color coded it to our brand colors, right? So it's using tools effectively. You're not going to build a house with a plastic toy hammer from Fisher-Price. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing. Yeah. It's just another tool in the toolbox. Yes, it's going to change jobs, but what we're going to get are jobs that humans like to do even better. Mm-hmm. As much as I love planning, I don't want to sit down for a week and read this document and create graphs and spreadsheets and look at calendars and plug all this stuff in.
And the most important part of that, all that time you were going to spend doing that, you can now spend your time making the event that much better.
Exactly.
What is, looping back to the chamber here, for all the years you were involved before you were the executive director, what do you think is one thing that you, how can I word this? I want to say we're surprised to learn about the chamber or didn't understand until you got into that role? Like what, what's something
so there were certain facets of the chamber that I just wasn't involved in because it didn't suit me at my time when I was involved personally and professionally, the advocacy work that we do. So, for example, we, for lack of better term, really work to educate our elected officials on sometimes the unintended consequences of policies. I can give you a really clear example. Senator Griffo introduced a bill protecting workers, hospital workers and medical workers against violence in the workplace, and it left out social workers. Not that he wanted to. His wife is a social worker, or His wife is not a social worker. I take that back. I was talking to somebody else when I was explaining this, and their wife was a social worker. Anyway, talking about like looking at these things holistically and talking to membership, and one of our members was able to cite like our social workers are the first line of defense, and they're ones who are oftentimes get injured by medical patients in scenarios. And so like just those small things, being able to lobby on behalf of businesses, and that was recent, so it's top of mind. But I mean, everything from the CLCPA to energy consumption to paying back our unemployment insurance and not putting it on the backs of business owners. So being able to do that, I think I didn't realize the value that has for business owners, because when chambers are speaking, they're speaking on behalf of all of the businesses within their network. And also sometimes there are bills or policies, and based on how the organization may fund itself, they may not want to speak up because it may affect, a potential grant that they have in the works or funding streams that they receive from the state. And so the chamber can then be their voice in an anonymous sort of way. I think that's one of the pieces that I was most surprised by. And then also just running a business. It's running the chamber is running your own small business, and all of the pieces that happen and that you have to plan for, right? Like you don't plan for a cybersecurity attack. You don't plan for somebody's computer to die and have to budget for a new one the next day. You don't, people go out on sick leave, like long-term sick leave, and how do you manage employees? And so from the business side, right, you just think of an organization and the work that they do in the body of work, but there's still payroll, there's still taxes, there's still all of that stuff. And so I don't think I was surprised by it, but I think that's something that I've got to bolster on my side too, is running an organization beyond just the front-facing visible stuff. And I think the work that we do that's unseen, and I'm kind of referring back to the advocacy piece, which is seen, but not all the time by everybody, right? It's always the fun things that are seen. It's our business after hours. It's our networking. It's our really fun events, right? They get visibility. They have really pretty pictures. Phone calls and emails late at night with our elected officials, they don't get as much play, right? So that's kind of the work, that the unseen work, that's the most important work, I think, is the most surprising thing.
Here's with my involvement over the last several years, the one thing that I think is misunderstood or not understood enough by your average member is how many different ways there are to be involved. And furthermore, I'll say how many different ways there are to be involved and the benefits that it can give you as a business owner, as a member of the business community member, insert whatever here. I mean, and you can help me with this, but we have the government's committee, small business committee, the membership committee that helps with members, and the catalyst, all under there. There's so many. We'll be here all night if we're going to go through all of them. But my point is, it's to your point. I think a lot of people think of a chamber of like, oh, you just joined the chamber and you're a member of the chamber and you can show up to some of their events and that's it. But I think the difference is the involvement is really the limit of how much you want to get involved. But the unique thing I think that the Utica Chamber provides is you can get involved in what areas you want to get involved in.
Yeah. So last year we launched Oneida County-wide Restaurant Week. That'll be coming back again, just right up here in the next couple of weeks. Just after the 4th, we'll be launching the second annual Oneida County Restaurant Week. And people don't really think that restaurant business slows in the summer. You got people going on vacations. You have people who have camps. You have just the busy schedules. And so restaurants take a little bit of a hit. And so this is our way to give back to our restaurant community, to get people dining in those restaurants. It's a week to forget about your diets. We've got great food in the area, and we love showing it off. And it kicks off right before Boilermaker, so everybody from out of town can take advantage of all the different kinds of cuisine that we offer, because we have much more than just Italian, although I love our Italian restaurants. And, I need a good pasta fix before a long run too, but, that could be rice, right? Like maybe pasta isn't your thing. There's other carbs you can load up on in different cuisines and ethnicities. But it's you can get involved in the chamber in so many ways. And if you think that you join something and you have to be at everything, sometimes your presence in numbers matters more than a physical presence. And what you put into it is what you get out of it. So sometimes it's, I know that I want these kind of things, and we'd love to talk to you and say, if you need visibility, if you need advocacy, if you need mentorship for your young professionals within your employee group, we do all these different things, and we can kind of steer you through and kind of almost create a personalized plan that can show you success, right? So you talked about our Small Business Council. Every single month, we have somebody who comes in on a different topic that affects your business. Today, at our Government Affairs Council, we did a look at the legislative season and different labor laws that affect you as a business owner. So if you're not up on your labor laws and you can get dinged for something, this is a way that you can get a quick hit of education, and we can help you to make sure that you're in compliance.
Before we wrap up here, let's touch on What's Upstate.
Yeah, What's Upstate? So we launched that in 2021, and we're in a big refresh right now. As I mentioned earlier, we have lots of great high-quality jobs. Dan Foss was a wonderful announcement, 300 new jobs coming. Chobani, is on the way and being built, and there's, upwards of 1,000 jobs there, too. So we've got a lot of great high-paying jobs coming to our region, and we need people to fill those jobs. And so we constantly are working to attract talent and retain talent. This summer, we're really focusing on the interns who are here in our community, not only to have great work-based learning experiences, but really expose them to what our community has to offer in terms of live, work, play. I've been going around to various businesses and engaging with large group intern presentations, where you're hosting them in a baseball game next week. And so we're just really, we did a private tour yesterday for 2 of our MVH residents who are at the end of their residency, and we're hoping that they'll stay here and take jobs after that's done, because we have a huge need for healthcare workers. So working with employers as either they're trying to secure out of talent, but also working with our educational institutions to retain our talent here, telling the story of our community, not when they're juniors, but when they're freshmen, when they first get on campus, so that they know that everything to do and what this community has to offer. It really is such a wonderful place to launch your career. You can really easily secure a mentor. There's people here to help you grow as a young professional. It's super affordable. Housing is still affordable. We're in the middle of everything. We're a couple hours and train rides away from Toronto, Montreal, Boston, New York City, Washington, D.C. Buffalo, right? Syracuse. We're literally in the center of the state, in the center of it all. And for so long, the story was, move out of Utica and go make something of yourself. And what we're doing is, through storytelling, reframing, move to Utica and make something of yourself.
I think you just nailed it. And so I just want to hit this point. What's the email, the website?
What'sUpstateNY.com.
Okay. And I think poking around and playing on that site, the storytelling is key. And you guys have nailed that, of like, I went to Rochester and thought I was going to live out there to raise a family, and came home because this, and this was going on. And to be able to cultivate young people in this area that are moving in for school, or young people that are thinking of going away from school because of that notion of go away and make something, like, at that point, to have that resource is phenomenal. So
and even if you're a local, there's just so much to do in the area.
Yeah.
And we've got the America 250 happening, and all the events that are surrounding that, and just everything that we have to offer. It's a small town city with a big town feel.
I might have to wear my shirt again for the America 250 events.
Yeah, you are. Love it.
Mike loves my patriotic shirt here today.
Patriotic golf.
Thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
Where can people learn
pleasure.
more about the chamber?
GreaterUticaChamber.org. if you're using a phone, 315-724-3151.
Call on your landline, darn
Call
it.
on my landline.
Call on your landline.
But also, all of our socials. We're on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. Reach out and message us there if you need to. We're super accessible. We do about 150 events a year, and we're just trying to help build better businesses and better communities.
Well, you and the team are doing an amazing job. So on behalf of the business community, thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much.
It's been fun to be a small part of. Everybody, make sure to check them out at the Greater Utica Chamber. Kari, thank you again for your time. Until next time, go out there, lead with purpose, and make an impact in someone's life today, even if that's your own. My name's Stephen Turnbull. We'll see you next week. Take care.